Bienvenidos. Welcome to another episode of Fuego Founders. Super excited. You know why I'm excited? Because we're actually in a new studio today. And I'm Joe Ochoa Jr., El Gran Empresario, and
Yesenia, just the CEO. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm amazing because I want to give a shout out to my grandma. It's her birthday today.
Happy birthday, Grandma.
76. And also that we are here.
Yeah.
We've missed each other, right?
Yeah, we have. But, you know, Miss World Traveler over here, you have this amazing glow to you today for whatever reason. And I thought I would see you a little tired because you're always on the go, but you actually have a glow. Are you doing something different? What's going on?
So I went to the gym this morning, actually, and it's funny because every Wednesday that we are here with Fuego Founders podcast, I'm like, okay, let me get up, let me get energized. And I think the hardest part for you is, as a person, right, in the mornings, is that getting up, right, and showing up. So what I have done is that I started going to sleep in my gym clothes.
Really? I like
for me
that.
To start, because
so like that, there's no excuse. You kind of look at yourself like, I gotta go to the gym.
You're like, you have no excuse. So you start, you wake up and you just brush your teeth and let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, because have you noticed, like, it's just health is wealth. Right? I think it's very important. Before, we had this idea that success was what you had, the achievements and the certificate and all that. But at the end, it's how you feel.
That's, and I hate to say this, but I've actually really, truly found out the importance of health is truly the wealth, because we think it's about the money, the trips, all these other things, but you can't enjoy any of those things if you don't have your health in order. And I think that should be the topic we should actually talk about today a little bit, is how important our health is, right?
Correct. Yes, it's very important. And like you said, I mean, we stay busy, we travel. And for me, one of the hardest things is working out and drinking water. So I get really dehydrated during the day because I am so on the go and I forget to drink water. So thank you to the team here that always brings us water throughout the day, right? So it is important, the health. And then, because if not, like you said, you have a glow, you radiate what you have inside.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, what's interesting you say that, because, to get a little bit into my personal life, a lot of times people kind of see the outside, right? What's going on. They see the success, but sometimes they don't understand the true hardships and what you're going through, the challenges inside, right? Maybe your husband, maybe your wife, maybe your family may see that, but everybody always thinks that you have it all put together, right? But as an entrepreneur, we struggle with certain things, right? And that's actually one of the things that I'm struggling with right now. I had a scare a couple weeks back where I was having these fainting episodes.
Wow.
And, for somebody like myself that have never been sick, right? I get a cold once a year, never really been sick. I never missed school, never missed work. That was a big thing. And I'll never forget the first episode. I was actually at a doctor's house. It was a doctor and she's a nurse. And I was checking on something for them. And I was like, ooh, this feels weird. And I said, it's not right. So I go inside, I told them. And so I started drinking some water and I cleared out my schedule and I went home, right? That was my first episode.
But what was the symptoms?
The
what
symptoms
did you feel
basically is that the way I describe it is somebody was going to turn off the switch in my brain and I was just going to pass out. And I had never had that. I've never experienced something like that. And I'm one of those people that I'm like a machine. I just keep going. I just don't know how to stop. And what happens is now when I realize it is your body gives you those signs of a check engine light, just like a car. You're driving, check engine light, low pressure on the tire. You need to go fix it, right? And so that's exactly. So I've been actually kind of chilling out for the past couple weeks. We're fortunate enough that we have our phones. We can do a lot of business, but not going out and seeing as many clients. But one of the things that I really realized is how good of a community to have my customers reaching out and saying, hey, we're praying for you. How's everything going? That's one thing that's really neat to see, that I wasn't just for service for them, but like they genuinely care about who I am. But I just got my heart monitor taken off because I'm having everything checked out. I said, look, let's check everything out. I don't want to find out 6 months later that I have something when I could have. And so I went to my primary care doctor. They did all my lab work. And just anyhow, I got to admit, since I was a kid, I've been this chubby little guy, right? Not a little guy now.
Lleno de vida.
Lleno de vida, right?
Eso es lo que es.
I've always been that guy. And I told the doctor, I said, look, I said, since I was a kid, the doctor always tells me the same thing. He says, your lab work looks great, everything looks good, but you got to lose weight. And I said, you're probably going to tell me the same thing. And sure enough, my lab work came back, everything came back pretty good. Cholesterol a little high, but not enough to put me on any medication. The good thing is, that was great, right?
Yeah.
But there was something in my mind that said, okay, if I don't do something now, I may be on medication. I may be on cholesterol. I may be on high blood pressure, those things. I need to do something. So that's really where the shift came.
No, that's awesome. And then all that preventative care appointments that I even like 2 weeks ago, I was at the doctor's office and I posted a picture because I'm like, hey, this is a friendly reminder that you need to go to your doctor, right? Yeah. Just to do a preventative checkup. There's been so many cases that people have determined if there's something going on with them ahead of time, right? And funny thing that you tell me is that you're like, you show that you're glowing and everything. Like you said, a lot of people just see the outside. But to share a little story about me is that I was also almost pre-diabetic, whenever I went to the doctor 3 years ago, and they were like, hey, like I was 210 pounds actually.
That's crazy.
Yes. And they were like, you're pre-diabetic, you're going to have to start taking metformin. And then it came to me that I'm like, metformin, that's the medication that my grandma drinks. Wow. And I'm like, and I was like, I'm not going to say my age. what was 3 years ago? No, I'm just kidding. I was, 31, I think. And I'm like, I'm 31 and I'm going to start taking metformin. I'm like, that's a big no. So I had to like do my research. I started Googling. I started, doing some YouTube, just researching how to lower or how to get rid of pre-diabetic, right? And I started doing intermittent fasting, changing my diet and all that. And always, disclosure, always consult your physician before you start taking any actions on your health, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's just, you just never know. And it's also, it's just, I mean, it comes from family history, but obviously you want to change that because our mentality is like, oh, let's keep drinking el pan dulce con café or eating pan dulce con café, and we can't continue that. We have to change that.
Well, here's the thing is that we create these habits because of the environment that we're in, right? And so right now, my struggle is I'm having to reprogram my mind. Now, we can all do it, right? And so I'm going to tell you why this is different for me because I've tried to lose weight in the past, right? But then I just don't have the continuous discipline to say, hey, that's important.
Right.
And I promise I'll try not to make you cry, and I promise I'll try not to cry. But this is what changed my life in that moment because I didn't know what was happening. And I really thought I was going to die. I didn't know that was I going to die? My grandfather died from a brain aneurysm, right?
Wow. So this recent time that you
when this happened, right?
Was and like what?
My grandfather died in 2010.
No, but what happened to you was
this
like
was 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, and that's whenever you were like,
I got to go home, and so I went home that day. I left that appointment I was at. I cleared my schedule. I called my wife. I said, "Hey, I'm going home, and I'm just gonna rest." Right. And so, of course, I'm thinking, man, should I be going to the hospital instead? That kind of stuff. And that always makes me nervous because I hear stories from people all the time that like, hey, if it wasn't for my wife saying, no, you got to go to the hospital, I'd probably be dead right now.
Yes.
So I went home, I rested up, I drank some water, but I started writing to my kids and I started writing to my wife. And that was the very moment, right? I have a will, I have a testament, I have life insurance, I have all those things. But at that very moment, it was life-changing. And the reason being is, imagine writing to your daughter and saying, if you're reading this letter, that means I'm not able to walk you down the aisle.
Oh my gosh.
Right? That means that I'm no longer here.
Yes.
And I want your brother and I want your brothers to walk you down the aisle, right? And so I was like, man, I'm like, and then talking to about my son, right? Like all these things, and my wife. But for whatever reason, what really just hurt me and made an impact even more, or basically the cherry on top, was when I'm writing to my 8-year-old son, right? Saying, it's not fair to you. You're only 8 years old, right? And so, but I want you to know that every time that we were with you, I gave all of me. You had all of me, right? So the years that you had with me, they were fulfilled by everything that I had, right? And so that was a life-changing moment, because I said, wow, like, you know, I don't want to go through this, but I try to plan. I am a planner, believe it or not. I said, I got to do these things because, number one, hopefully it'll wake up something in my brain to say, hey, if you need to fight.
Yes.
Right? Because in life we have
don't give up.
Yeah,
yes.
Don't give up, right? And not that I was giving up, because my wife says, I can't believe you did that. I did that because I want my kids to know. I want them to know where I was, what I was thinking. And so now I'm in that new state of mind of saying, like, guess what? You got to give it all. Right.
Yes.
And so sometimes we don't realize what an entrepreneur is going. You see him and you think everything's great. You're serving everybody. But here's what's happened. I've been serving everybody, and I haven't serving myself. I haven't helped myself to get to where I need to be.
Right.
And because I felt selfish and I felt lazy. And so one of the doctors told me, he's like, you got to take care of yourself. He goes, have you ever heard when you're going down on a plane? I was like, well, I've never gone down on a plane, but like if the plane's going down, they say, put the mask on you first,
right?
Then put it on those around you. He goes, right now you have to put on your mask first.
Exactly.
And that was a life-changing situation. So I'm hoping that the months to come and the years to come, that you won't see this nice big llantita, the tire here, but that was a life-changing situation.
No, absolutely. Well, one, I want to say thank you for sharing this story, because it takes courage, right? And saying this in front of cameras and just mentioning it, because it's very powerful. And two, realizing that you have to make that change. You are like, okay, what is it that I need to do now? And like you said, you had a switch, or it was, moment with God, like, hey, you better get it together, because there's more out there for you. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's not done with me yet, right? Exactly. Obviously, that's why I'm here. And so right now, what I'm doing is I'm having everything checked. I am having, when I'm talking about, so I've already seen my primary care doctor. Today, I'm going with the cardiologist. I have to go to the neurologist, pulmonologist. I'm doing absolutely everything, right? Some people say that, hey, look, maybe because of the stress, because I do a lot. I always have a lot of stuff going on, that maybe the body was trying to shut down. But I'll tell you what my main primary care doctor said, and you said it earlier. I have a bad habit of not eating breakfast, and I don't eat till 3 o'clock. And from basically when I wake up till 3 o'clock, I may only have 32 ounces of water, and I don't eat food. Wow. So, and the reason I do that is because when I wake up, I naturally wake up with a lot of energy. And I don't know why I'm saying wow, because I'm guilty as that for that too. I usually just get coffee. I'm not hydrating enough. Exactly. No, and that's something that you have to start that discipline, or get a new habit, or get with your wife or a friend, that accountability partner, right? That's what we were doing yesterday with a friend. I'm like, hey, I'm putting my alarm for tomorrow morning. And she's like, okay, I'm going to put it 2. And then this morning. Did you go work out with your friend? Well, we don't go to the same gym, but we kind of like called each other. But that is important too. And it's little things like we said, it's preventative, and we know what we need to do. It's just like we're not doing that as a priority, right? Exactly. So you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we know exactly how to lose weight, right? Yes. I mean, literally, we have the recipe, especially nowadays with YouTube videos and training this and training all that. And I laugh because an old guy once said this a long time ago. He goes, you work out more and you eat less. You know what I mean? That's like literally. That's the key. That's the key. And the secret. The secret, right? And so at the end of the day, it's habits, it's discipline. And I don't know about you, but when I work out or what have you, I feel so much better when I leave there, right? Exactly. That's why I'm glowing today. Every time I come and do the podcast, I go work out. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the day. And another thing I wanted to touch base is also we start paying trainers. We have a gym membership. We have a nutritionist. We spend all this money for like, we already know what we need to do.
That's exactly
and
right.
they can give us all the resources and tools, but if we don't take action, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I will have to say, obviously, I get to work with Yesenia. And one of the things I can truly say, I see a lot of things out there when people are posting stuff and filters and all this. I can truly see this is non-filter. This is real. Like the
Thank
glow
you.
is natural. So keep up the good work.
Drinking more water.
Yeah,
So I did wanted to share also. One of the reasons when I start working out is because my anxiety. Like maybe you don't even see it, but I do get anxiety. Like last night, I couldn't go to sleep. And I was like, okay, this means I need to go work out, because you need to take that either adrenaline or anxiety or stress. I don't like to call it anxiety, or like, because I do believe that we have the power to control our body and our thoughts, right?
No doubt.
So I'm just like, this is not anxiety. I'm just like, I have a lot on my plate. So what I do usually is that if I have a lot of things going on in my head, is I get up from my bed and I start writing. I have a notebook next to my bed. So I'm like, okay, I need to do this. I need to do that. Because once you're in bed and you're like looking up the ceiling and you're like, I didn't send this message, I need to email, I need to send this payment and all that stuff, right? And then it's like, you want to do it right there and then. But instead of doing that, now I start writing them.
No, that's great.
Down.
You know, it's interesting. I like what you say. I don't, about anxiety. It's not giving it a name, right? Because the minute that you do give it a name, even though we know where it comes from, is that it could overtake your mind,
Exactly.
right, and so forth. So that feeling is understanding. Like for myself, I pray and I do deep breaths, and then I pray, right? When I get, and I just like, okay, step back, because you feel that heart.
Prayer
just like,
is
boom,
big.
boom, boom, and start
I
just
always
then,
ask God, I'm like, take this feeling away, even when you are feeling that anxiety or fear or even anger, right?
Yeah. It's so interesting. My sister, and I got to give out a shout out to my sister, Gabby Ochoa, and my brother Jaime, that work so hard, right, at the
Shout out to
family
Ochoas.
business. Yeah. But one of the things that she does is that she goes, I know how to take care of Joe's stress. And so she'll get everybody in the room and she's like, look, check this out. So if y'all need this, let me know. And then I'll walk up to her and she's like, close your eyes. So I close your eyes. She's like, take a deep breath out and do it again. And then she slaps me. And I'm like, what the heck was that? See, your stress is away. You're not even thinking about what you're thinking.
Hey, that's a good one. I'm going to do it to my brothers at
exactly.
the office.
Yeah, so thank you, Gabby, for always slapping me around, my little sister, and taking that stress away. But sometimes we have to come up with little things to take us away. And even my dad and I, we were having a conversation about how powerful the mind is.
Correct.
Right? And how it can control your body, and whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're correct, right?
Yes.
And that's a great quote from Henry Ford, right? That I love. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you are correct. So if you tell yourself, no, I can't do that. How many times have you heard either your children or people say, I can't do that?
Yesterday, my son, Alexander, he's like, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late to school. I'm going to miss the bus. And he thought I was going to be like, okay, like take your time. I'm like, no. You're going to go and run to the bus stop and you're going to start thinking, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it on time. I'm going to make it on time. And
did he make it?
Yeah, he did make it.
Good.
Yeah. And that's something that you start implementing with the kids, right? As well, like investment. We already spoke about that. And now how to train the mind,
Correct.
Right? So it's very important.
Yeah, it's interesting. Last night we were having a conversation with our son because, he's still young or whatever, and he has some challenges, reading and so forth. And so we were talking about how, whether he thinks he can or cannot do it, it's entirely up to him.
Right.
Right. The minute that you start like, I don't like homework and I don't like reading and I don't like whatever, then what happens is your body posture. So it was so interesting. It's like, hey, body posture, mom's working with them, body posture, and say, hey, I can do this or whatever, because he's trying to read more complex books.
Right.
And of course there's challenges, but through those adversities, you're teaching your kids and really preparing them for success. And we tell our kids all the time, My job is not to give you everything. Yeah, I want this and I want that and I want all these things. That's not my job.
Correct.
My job is to give you the tools and the skill sets that you need so you can be successful. So if you're a parent out there, don't give your kids everything. A lot of times you're setting them up for failure. I have a lot of friends that I grew up with that their parents gave them everything and then they struggle finding jobs.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I hate to say it, they turn to drugs, they turn to other things or what have you, because they don't know how to deal with adversity. And that is big.
Correct. And then sometimes what I do is that I let them go and do whatever they're going to do. And even though like they're about to fail, you let them, then you pick them up.
Correct.
Or, just teach them the lesson, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'm like, okay, what happened? Like, what did you learn from it?
Yeah.
Right? And because our culture is, we come from, ¿por qué hiciste esto? Y ya ves, tú no sirves or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that was my case, but we come from that environment, right? Yeah. So we have to change that. Yeah. And sometimes you sound like your parents. In the beginning, whenever I started as a mother, right? Then I started, there was one time that it hit me that I started to, I love my mom, but then I was like, I sound like my mom. I'm becoming my mom. And I was like, oh my God. But now with the nietos, they're like, oh no, leave them. They're fine. I'm like, Mom, you used to get mad at me whenever I...
Oh, I know. It's funny
what happened with that?
What the grandparents do with the grandkids versus the kids. And you bring up a very good point, right? And we always talk about that environment. My mom would always say, dime con quién te juntas y te diré quién serás. Like, tell me who you hang around with and I'll tell you what type of person you're gonna be. And I always think about, my mom was strict, my mom was super strict, growing up. Obviously didn't appreciate it at that time. As you get older, you appreciate it, right?
Right.
Because, she didn't let us running around on the streets. And then my dad was different, right? My dad he always brought us to work, right? He showed us a lot of skill sets, hard work and, being a man and being a man of your word,
right,
and that kind of thing. And, it's just so funny because there was two ways, there's two teachers. I really had two teachers there. And my mom was more like chancla. If you don't know what a chancla is, man, that's a flip-flop, bro.
That will fly across the room and will hit it.
It'll knock you out. It'll knock you out. But, we grew up in that environment, right? We grew up in that environment. And I got to tell, my mom's probably going to get upset that I share this story. But my mom, she was born in Mexico. And didn't know a lot about the rules and how things work here in the United States. And I'll never forget, we were young. You're gonna laugh when I tell you this. She was strict, right? And the chancla was something that was the tool, right, to straighten us out. Mm-hmm. And she's dealing with two boys that are 2 years apart. My sister came later on, but one day I got so upset, and we had learned at school what CPS was. Right? Child Protective Services. Yes. So anyhow,
you already know where you're going with this.
So we learned about it, and we even had the phone number, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget it. I just got tired of, she was spanking us, and I was like, I'm calling CPS. She's like, yo no sé qué es CPS or whatever. I was like, see, like if, when you're spanking your kids or whatever and this and that, I can call this number or whatever. And I'll never forget. I picked up the phone. I'm dialing the number. And she's like, what are you doing? So I'm calling CPS. I'm just tired. He goes, oh, okay. So you want them to come and take you? And then you're not going to, basically live here or whatever. And I'm like, then you start kind of thinking. He says, I'll tell them what you were doing, that I was having to use my flip phone.
Yes.
Like, okay, maybe this is not a good idea.
You're like, I'm going to get killed.
I'm going to get killed. That's exactly right. But you don't, it's so funny looking back at those things. At that time, you think it was such a bad thing. And you go, it's like, it was more, my mom wasn't beating us. What she was doing is getting our attention to, hey, but by today, you couldn't do something like that, Yes.
Unfortunately, it's the world we live in.
No doubt. But, by the same token, I will say, think about what's happening in the schools, right?
Exactly.
These kids are not respecting teachers.
Correct.
They're not respecting authority. And that's why we see what we see, right? I seem to think that we lived in the best generation ever, right? And I just scared to see what's the future for some of these kids, right? Because it's just nasty out there, you know?
It is scary. It is scary, especially with technology. Como dicen, es de doble filo. It's just, it's good because you have the resources, tools to educate yourself. Like we were mentioning before, like intermittent fasting and things like that. You just go on Google and Yahoo and stuff. But then we have the other end. What are our kids watching? So this is where the parenting comes in place to make sure that we are on top of it, because that's one of the hardest things for me right now is that being a mom, an entrepreneur, everything, it's just we have to be still on top of it, like calling the school, emailing the teachers, and making sure that they understand that there's different decisions that they can take. And I'm always telling my kids, it's your decision, and you should be able to determine, like, is this going to be the right path or the wrong path? What's going to happen if I take the wrong path? You're going to be in trouble. Things can go in your records, and you lose trust. Because I'm like, I trust you right now, but if you commit something that is not good, then I'm not going to trust you no more.
It's on your record. That's the reason why my son isn't the oldest. He's in the position that he is, because we trust him 100%, right? Like even in high school, like he would text, hey, made it to school, or now I'm home, or whatever. I mean, always really good about communicating, is because he's earned that. So when he went to college, guess what? As long as he's making good grades and not getting in trouble, it's there. But the minute that one of your kids do something, you're like, hey, we got to reel you back in. And the sad thing is, and I'm going to ask you this question, it might be a little bit of a difficult question, but one of the things that I see that most parents struggle with, especially, right, you work.
Exactly.
You work full time, right? I'm fortunate enough that my wife gets to stay home, and that was a sacrifice that she took, to stay home so we can raise the kids and all that. But like, how do you do it? Like, how do you raise your kids? You're traveling all the time, but you're still there. And like, I see it, right? Like, how do you balance that? I mean, it takes a lot.
So I definitely had to learn to put things on my schedule. So now where it hit, and we're going to talk about the truth too, is unfortunately last semester Alexander failed a class, and not failed a class, he was in a K level math, and then they had to put him in regular math, and that's whenever it hit me as well. Something had to happen for me to kind of like realize, like, hey, you need to get involved more in what's going on, especially in the academic side, right? So that's definitely what happened. And then for me now is more of like, I put it in my schedule once a week, check in with his grades, and then also email the teacher. And I was not doing that before. Yeah. So obviously I felt horrible at the time. Like I even cried because I was like, because I was just getting to the office and the teacher called me and she's like, hey, we've been sending letters, and I'm like, how come I didn't know about this? Because I could have helped him before, right? Like, hey, are you struggling with this class? And it's his first year in middle school. So it was like a big change. But I couldn't be hard on him because it also ended on me. Yeah. Like, what did I do to help him?
Well, you said it too. Like, he went into 8th grade. I know a lot of kids, right, when they're adjusting either a new school or they're going
from
to
elementary to middle school,
or in high school or college. I mean, it happens, right?
Yes.
And so I always say is like, I give you this 1 year to make an adjustment.
Correct.
But let's work on that. But the good thing is that you saw that, you recognize it, because a lot of people are just like, oh, okay, it's like,
yes,
whatever.
And that's very important for all the working mom entrepreneurs, that we have to take a moment to just realize, okay, let's put everything on the table. What's going on at home? What's going on with the kids? Work, and you as well, right? But first is ourselves first. We were talking about it. Yeah. You have to take care of yourself first in order for you to take care of the rest. And definitely put a schedule, like you put an alarm, a certain day that you're gonna. Same thing like with date nights, right? Like, I had a mentor. He's like, hey, if you have to put your date nights on a calendar, start doing them, because that is important as well. Yeah. Same thing with the kids. Like for me, Sundays, I'm just like, okay, I'm disconnecting and I'm going to spend it with the kids now. It's just
that's
those
good.
Adjustments.
It's interesting because, like I said, for the past several weeks where I've just kind of stepped back, I think because a lot of times we think we have to do everything, right? I think that was one of my things, even though I have a great team and I got multiple businesses, right? And I
Right.
run the family business. I have two other businesses. And I'm like, man, you always feel that it takes you, but that's really where you find out how good your process and your systems are, to see if they work, right? If everything starts falling apart, then, hey, you didn't do a good job. And so that's what happened as I pull back and I'm like, okay, do things happen? Yes, but it's not something that it's not a life and death situation,
Right.
right? And it's funny when I got a text from one of my guys yesterday. This is not a life and death situation, but I just wanted to bring something to your attention because that's one thing that I learned from my dad and I passed on to our guys in our team is, look, is this something that can be taken care of? Yeah. Like, did somebody die? Because I can't bring somebody back from the dead, right? I just
Right.
can't do that. But is this a situation that we can take care of and everything's fine? Yeah, then keep doing it. But empowering your team and trusting your team to do the right thing. And we have new guys on our team. I was like, here's the one thing you have to remember is always do the right thing. That's it. Like if we messed up something, we didn't do something correct, we always do the right thing, whatever it takes for our customer. And they're like, oh,
Yes, it's
you
true.
don't have to worry about calling me, hey, can I take care of this? Just take care of it. Just take care of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So definitely having that culture in your business is very important as well. Like you have to take care of that part so that way you can, when things happen in life, your team has your back. Like we were talking with my brother yesterday. I don't know what I mentioned, but I was like, oh, because, I was messing with him as a CEO. I'm like, I haven't gotten paid like in 2 months, but I was just messing with him. He's like, well, that's what it takes to be like a leader. And I'm like, yeah, but I have your back. And he's like, yeah, but all of us have your back as well, And I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's
That's
what
awesome.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, speaking of that, I know you're kind of joking around, but some people don't realize that. Like,
Yeah.
I've interviewed a lot of different people in my lifetime. Obviously, I coach and I mentor different businesses that I would look at them and they're like, they're very successful. And then when you talk to them and they're like, oh, I haven't gotten paid in 6 months. And I'm like,
I've had situations like that. I can't say that right now. Obviously, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, tax season just passed, right?
yeah. But it's
But
just,
no, it
people don't-
happens.
people
I've
don't
had
understand.
I've actually had like maybe 2 years. That was in the beginning that I didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
tough.
And that's where it's crazy that you think and then you look back because it's like you, como dicen en español, le apuestas todo. Tu energía, tus ahorros y just your faith. Like you have there is faith. And it's either fear or faith. Both take the same energy. So you just have to choose one, right?
No, 100%. Those are great words. And when you say that, that's when you truly know that you have passion for what you do.
Exactly.
That because to be able to go, I mean, how many people do you know that would put in that time? Some people do it 2-3 months and then give up. It's like going to the gym. They're like, oh, I've been going for 2 weeks. I haven't lost any weight. And then boom, they give up, right? Imagine a business. And that's what we bring
It's all
here.
an investment.
Yeah.
It's all an investment. And I heard it from my brother Edwin this week. So I'm going to steal that because he was teaching my son. I'm like, my brother has a financial degree, and now sometimes our kids don't want to listen to us. I was like, hey, go ask your uncle about investments. And he's like, it's an investment. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym expecting something in return, right? But it takes time.
Takes time.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
And that's in everything. Investment in, financial investment in going to the gym, investment in getting healthier, because all this, it's an investment. You going to the doctors, making those phone calls, changing your diet, that's an investment.
Yeah. If you're just now tuning in, my name is Joe Ochoa Jr., El Gran Empresario, and we're here at Fuego Founders. And this is actually our new studio for today, and we'll see how long we keep it. It's kind of relaxed today. And I also have
Yesenia, just the CEO. Yes, we're very excited. I feel like this is more like a chill vibe, and we get to talk a little bit more about what's really going on with us and opening up and being vulnerable, right? And
That's
just
exactly
being
right.
just ourselves and having a safe space here.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that happens is that most people, and that's what we're trying to bring here at Fuego Founders, is what are the things that most business owners or entrepreneurs, they don't want to talk about, right?
Right.
They keep it to themselves. You've heard the term that it's lonely at the top.
Correct.
It's so true. I mean, it's so true. I was talking to a business owner 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. And he was like, man, I remember reading about it's lonely. He goes, it is. And he was talking about how, he doesn't have that many friends and he doesn't have this. He goes, a lot of it is surface and business and all that.
Right.
I said, well, I'll tell you what my mom taught me when I was a kid says you're probably only going to have 5 true friends in your entire life, max. Everybody else is acquaintances. And so I was telling him that.
Or opportunities.
Or opportunities, right?
Yes.
But when I was telling him that is like, you have to guard your space. You have to protect your time. But by the same time is what are you bringing to somebody else? So anytime that I'm with somebody, I try to bring value to them.
Correct.
Right? Because if not, then that person or you become a time burglar. You're stealing their time.
Exactly.
And you know what everybody in this world has, whether you have no dollars in the bank or not even a bank account or have billions of dollars, we all have the same thing, 24 hours.
Correct.
24 hours. And it's up to you and I what we do with that.
Boom, drop the mic.
I like
The mic.
yeah, drop the bottle of water. Let's hydrate.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, it is true because I also try to do the same. Like, how can I help you? Like, what's going on? Like, or try to change their perspective in life, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're like, oh, this and this is happening. But then you have those hard-headed people that don't, you give them the tools and resources and they're like, oh no, I'm still like, struggling. But I'm just like, but you're not helping yourself.
Yeah. If you actually, I had to go back and break down that because a lot of times it's that we know the value that we bring. And then all of a sudden you have those people that oh, this, that, or whatever. They're not a SAS tax service client, right?
Correct.
They're not a Joe Ochoa client. They're not an
Correct.
America's Empresario client. You just can't waste your time on those
Right.
people, right? You try, you present, you do what you have to do. But if you feel that vibe is not there, then just like don't even waste your time. I actually did some analytics of those people that I were trying to get. They became my biggest headaches. They became those clients that you didn't want. That I won them over, right? It was like a dating game, right? And it's like I wanted to bring everything so I could see how great I was, and they still didn't appreciate me.
Correct.
So,
no, you got to be strategic about it. And I think that what happens is that in the beginning, like this is my case, I was saying yes to everything, everyone.
You and I have that problem.
Yes,
Used to have
yes.
that
And
problem.
even but I still see what clients need, like that help. Like even yesterday I had a client that came in and he needed a contract, he needed help, and he's like, hey, I appreciate you so much because my son told me that you stay busy and this is out of your like the business that you do.
Yeah, your primary business.
Your primary business. And I'm like, look, one thing I'm going to tell you is that I'm not going to forget where I come from and why I started this. Like I want to make sure that my clients understand that even though we might be busy and if I'm able to help, I'm going to help. But also I need you to collaborate. Like, okay, if I need this X, Y, and Z, you have to bring it to me. So he's like, no, I appreciate that. Shows a lot because a lot of people, start growing and then they leave the little people behind. But we can't forget where we come from.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I think that's why we build the business and the communities around us because we want to help them, right? And a lot of times people do forget about those people, right? And then all of a sudden what ends up happening, right? Like they just like, oh, see, whenever she had a small business, she would take care of me, but now she's, flying here, flying there, whatever. But we can't do that.
Yes,
right?
but
Those
now we
people
have a
built our
team.
business.
We have
Now
a
I
team. So you're in good hands. So don't feel like we're not going to take care of you. Everybody, it gives 100%, and we want to make sure that the team is giving the 100% because they radiate that.
No doubt. So let's talk about our sponsors today.
Awesome. So shout out to SAS Tax and Business Solutions. Thank you so much for sponsoring our show today. And
Joe Ochoa Roots and even more, and America's Empresarios. And if you're looking at sponsoring our show and you want to highlight your business, make sure that you find us here at Fuego Founders.
That's right. You have great opportunity. We have the platforms, YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, that we put our episodes out. And that way you can also, if you have any like material or items that you sell, you can also bring them and you can present them.
Yeah, most definitely. So changing the gear a little bit, what are you doing this summer? Do you got any plans for the summer? I know we talk about work all the time. What are you doing?
That's a good question. So this summer, I do want to spend more time with the kids for sure, because I'm always like, summer flies and I'm just like, oh, I'm going to be with them like on a Friday or Mondays, right? But this time I do want to just make sure that I am at least taking 2 days out of the week to just focus on them and see, because they're growing and I just feel like next year they're just older, and then next thing you know they're like graduating from college. Like you have that situation, so I would be crying all the time.
So, my son just finished his first year straight A's. Super happy for him.
Congratulations.
At Texas A&M. But somebody told me something, and when I think about this way, it was like, oh wow, that's kind of scary. But I was like, okay, he has 3 more years and he graduates, right? Which is fast. But when he told me this, he goes, don't think about it as years. Think about it as summers, or think about it as winters. He has 3 more winters left. Then that makes it seem like really, really, small.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking he has literally 3 more winters or falls, and then he graduates. And I'm like, oh wow. So it's the same thing with our kids. You have your son's in middle school, right?
Right. He just started middle school, and then Sebastian is in 3rd grade. So he has 2 more years in elementary, and then Sophia is starting first. Yeah.
My daughter's going to high school.
Yes.
Right. And I'm like, wow. And then she'll be in college. It's like, it goes by so fast. So I say that because one of the things that I'm very appreciative that my wife was able to sacrifice, by staying home. Right. Of course, you always wish you had that additional income. Right. You're like, oh, that would, be nice or what have you, and this and that. So you can save more for retirement or what have you. But let me tell you, I would not change it for the world.
And you guys are a team. Like,
no
same thing, at home. I'm like, hey, we're a team. And if somebody can't take care of something, then the other person takes care of the other one.
You got to step in.
Yeah.
And I think you do soccer stuff. We do baseball stuff. My oldest one, who was doing track and running around. It's like you feel like an Uber driver everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. No, we're planning to go see some family in California this summer. Hang out at the beaches, relax. I used to travel for 2 months out of the summer.
Wow.
And so last year we didn't do that. This year we might do about 3 or 4 weeks out of the summer where I can just truly unplug. The crazy thing is that's usually our busy time. But we have a great team. The one thing that's nice about the coaching and mentoring business, a lot of it I do through Zoom, unless they're here local. Every once in a while, a business will have me fly out to wherever they're at, whether it's Oklahoma or Florida or New Jersey, and I'll go there and help them out. But a lot of it's Zoom, I can jump on there, and that's really nice.
No, that's what I was telling the kids. I'm like, maybe this summer we can like go to El Salvador, because we have a team in El Salvador. Shout out to them, and an office out there. I'm like, we can just go out there for a month or something. They're like, what? Like they get excited, but the thing is, I unplugged as well. Spend time, quality time, and all that.
No doubt. Yeah. What I've been wanting to ask you, and I was going to ask you off air, but I'm going to ask you now. You just got back from Florida, right? Like, how did that go? What was that experience?
It was intense. So the thing about it being in business is that you always have to educate yourself in the industry that you're in, because everything is evolving, right? And technology, new things are happening. So with us, what we do with IRS is that we have to keep up with it, because IRS switches things around, and we got to know what the new law is, right? So Definitely, I feel more knowledgeable now. It was a great experience. We were able to learn about, especially more about the resolution side,
Okay.
because there's tax preparation, and then what happens? We get those letters, right, from IRS. How are we going to take care of them? How are we going to respond? How can we bring those penalties or that tax liability if there's any situations? For example, the person that you referred over, he had a situation that it was not even his fault, right? That
Yeah.
we are trying to help him with that as well. So it's definitely, it was a great experience. We also have another event. This one is directly with the IRS. It's the IRS Forum in Dallas. So we are taking the whole team in August. So they can also get that insight, because we want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. And that's where, the SAS culture comes in place, that it's not only like, we don't want to be like, oh, the leader going here. No, it's a whole team. There's no I
Yeah.
in team, right?
No doubt. That I admire you for doing that, because
Yeah.
a lot of times that's what businesses do. Always the primary guys. And what about the rest of their team?
Correct.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the things that I've been working on, one of my dreams is to build, have scholarships for kids. And I literally just picked up my big check. I have this big check. It's like 5 foot big or what have you, because we're doing some donations to
Really?
schools and so forth. You'll hear a little bit more about that. But Saturday I was at an amazing event raising some money for the schools and so forth or what have you. I'm big in Catholic education. That's one thing that resonates with our family. And it's not, for us, it's always about how can we give? How can
Right.
we give more, right? Because if God blesses you, how do you bless others?
Correct.
Right? It's not for you. Like I said, I always talk about, we like nice things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like, okay, I'm built to build a bigger house or to get more cars or to, it's like, to me, the real legacy of a business is what you leave behind, right?
Correct.
Like you see so many grants and money. I and hope that we're in a position one day where the money just keeps going on for years and years and years.
Exactly. No, and I'm a big believer in that once, God blesses me, I always tell him like, hey, God, you bless me, I'm going to bless others, right?
Correct.
Same thing with the opportunities. Like as we grow, we are looking for those, to give those opportunities to students out there or internships, and especially also in El Salvador too. That's something that we are working on, like creating jobs. And I know like a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just keep it in-house? But why not?
Yeah.
And why not extend?
Most definitely. And at what I love is what's actually happening in Salvador, right?
Yes.
I mean, not only have you gone there, but I mean, there's a big company that just went and built a big campus there, right?
Yeah, Google.
Yeah, Google's there. I mean,
Yes.
so what does it tell you? That there's talent around the world. I mean,
There's
we
definitely
we
talent.
currently have talent around the world that helps our business too as
Correct.
well,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
We give people the opportunities here, but if they're not taking them, if they're not doing it, and it's not so much because you're trying to find cheaper labor somewhere else, is that you're trying to tap in the top talent so they can provide the best service
Correct.
for your clients,
Mhm.
right?
That is right.
So,
that is
I mean,
correct.
That's the way we look at it or what have you. So
Yeah.
So what else is going on in Jasenia's world?
So right now, definitely just spending time with the family and getting that knowledge in, so we can always provide the best service to our clients, and the updates for IRS and the accounting side. And we honestly have been blessed because we have been getting new clients. So we're onboarding, and we just hired a new team member as well. So here at SAS, and we're just expanding. But as a business owner and leader and CEO, you also have to keep in mind how to structure the in-house, right, inside of the business, as what are going to be the pipeline, right? Like it's just making sure that we all are in the same page as from onboarding the client and also finishing the job.
Yeah, it's interesting is truly understanding that business structure. 2 years ago, I completely changed our business structure because even though things were working great, for scalability, our business wasn't there. And what I've come to the realization is that we all have talents, and collectively together we make the business, right?
Correct.
And we had team members that were kind of doing everything, right? And that was a mentality. Well, that's great. Our team members can kind of help each other out, but you are the specialist. So it's like an engine, right? Every person is a part, and together that engine moves. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It's like pretty much directing an orchestra, right? Like you just have to make sure that everything's in order. And I do want to mention that I am going to start doing strength finders with my team as well. I don't know if
that's
you.
a great program.
Yes, I haven't
that.
started, but I am going to start starting
that.
I'm going to start that program with the team as well, because I do believe that like a lot of corporate America, I do think that they focus a lot on the negative, especially whenever the annual reviews come and like you've been doing this bad. Why not focus on the positive side? What is it that you're good at? What is it, especially each employee is different. So that's where I focus a lot is, okay, what is it that you love to do and how can we scale it, right?
Yeah. And we can talk about that obviously a little bit more in the next show, because I think you bring a very good point, is to finding the right people, putting them in the right seats, but where their natural talents are, that's where they're going to help your business grow. I struggled with that because we were trying to open up a different department. I put somebody in, talk to a guy who goes, I hate doing this. And I'm like, you're so good. You're so good at this.
He's like, I hate it.
Yeah, he didn't. And guess what? We moved people around and it just truly, truly worked out for the business overall, right? And so we'll definitely talk next time.
Awesome. Well, I loved spending time with you and chatting. This was a great conversation. Definitely. So definitely stay tuned because we have more to come.
And the best is yet to come, right?
Yes.
That's right. So I'm Joe Ochoa Jr. here from our brand new studio here at Panorama Brand Studio with Fuego founders, El Gran Empresario and
Yesenia, just the CEO. We'll see you next time.